Let's start the show. Hello and welcome everybody back to the show. And this is the show in which we really go all over the place, all over the show in fact. And this is just where our thoughts are expressed, no matter how randomly they appear to us. Whatever comes to mind, we talk about it. We dissect it, try and figure it out, or just explore it. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to explore my crazy mind. But yes, alright, so welcome to the show. And if you're new to this, please subscribe to this show. You don't have to like, but if you want to like, go ahead and do it. But I really appreciate the support so far. Oh my goodness, it's been so overwhelming. And like on days like this, for example, where it's Tuesday today, normally on a Monday I film and post, and then the Monday will pass and people will text me and they say, hey man, where's the show? Like, what's happening, you know? It's good to know that people are eager to watch the next episode, and that's really a heartwarming feeling, you know? Sometimes when you do something, you feel like, nah, this is a waste of time. You feel, I shouldn't be worrying myself with this. I shouldn't be putting much effort into this. But this show is one that, like, since the beginning, actually, it's just felt right, you know? I don't know if you know what I mean by that. For example, you know when you do something and it takes 3 hours. 3 hours passes without you even noticing the time has gone by. You know, that's how you know, nah, this is a solid thing to do, you know? And most of the time, doing this for me feels like that. It just feels so right, you know? So it's right up there with practicing music. You really don't notice the passage of time. And when you look up again, wow, 3 hours have passed and you've missed supper or something, and you're like, oh, I'm so hungry. Why? You know, I've only been here for 10 minutes. Then you look, oh, what? 3 hours have passed? Oh my goodness, you know? And silly guy, you know, and you just know that when you're doing that, you are actually fully engaged in something that you consider meaningful. And it's different for all of us, whatever it may be for you, whether you like to kill insects or teach a classroom full of children, you know, that's if you're doing that and you feel as though time doesn't pass, or you don't notice the passage of time, you're really in the right place, doing the right thing. And that's what this feels like to me. So so I hope you enjoy the show and buckle up for this roller coaster of wild thoughts and erratic behavior. And that just pretty much sums up my personality. If you're into that sort of thing where you try and summarize things, which I don't think is necessarily accurate. You know, it's very difficult to summarize any one person, really. To summarize a book, wow, so much goes missing. It's really tough to distill and break down, you know, a whole work of literature into a few points, you know. And later today we are gonna explore another work of literature that I've been just looking back on. So what I do is I do share books. I do share with you certain points that come from books that I've read. I've been an avid reader for maybe my whole life, and I'm really passionate about it. So much so that I want to continue to recommend a book to everybody, you know. Like sometimes when you listen to a friend or a family member, or they tell you something, or someone close to you, and they share something that's troubling them, or, you know, they share something with you, and you're like, you know what you would find interesting is this book right here, you know. And or maybe like, you know what would help is if you read this book. This book has a lot of insights that relate very much to what you're going through, or how your life is set up, and it might help you to better navigate your life, and there's obviously different strokes for different folks. I mean, it's amazing that we have this innovation now of audiobooks where you don't even need to be reading the book. You could just be listening to it. It's fantastic. So while you're working out, while you're doing the dishes or making food or using the toilet or fetching your children from school or bringing them home or making breakfast or making lunch or making supper or eating breakfast, eating lunch or eating supper or eating supper on the toilet, if you're into that kind of thing. First of all, you. Second of all, you are weird and I like you. And I do like weird people. I think, sorry, I'm moving way too fast. Let me just backtrack a little bit. To summarizing, not just books, but even people, is that it takes a long time. It takes a long time to get to know somebody. And even after you get to know somebody and you think, okay, I know this person pretty well, there is still so much more to learn. And that's the beauty of human relationships, of human interactions, And I think that's what's so compelling for me about people. And that's why I keep talking about this, but I cannot wait to finally interview people, Oh my word, there's so many ideas, I would like to interview, first of all, I'd love to interview people that are in my life, right? Because one of the themes of the show is really just me sharing with you what's going on in my life and what my living experience, my human experience, and in line with that theme, having people that are in my life, who I find interesting to talk to, having conversations with them while you as a spectator get to engage in that as well. And it's another level of exploration into not just the human mind, which is what you're doing right now. You're getting a glimpse into the human mind, but you're also where am I going with this? Also getting to know the interaction between two human minds or three human minds, and I'm looking forward to that. I want to interview certain friends, certain family members. I would like to interview certain associates and acquaintances that I have, very interesting people that I believe you would find interesting as well. I also want to interview just day-to-day people, just normal, ordinary people, because I believe that there's no such thing as normal, there's no such thing as ordinary. What we think of as normal and ordinary is just the summary of people. It's just on the surface. But the more you talk to somebody and the more you listen to what they have to say, they are going to share something with you that you need to know. And that's what makes human beings so interesting. Oh my goodness. And one of Jordan Peterson's rules, one of the rules for life is assume that the person you are listening to might know something you need to know. Listen to them hard enough so that they will share it with you. So it's kind of like one rule, but it's broken down into two, and that's rule number 9 in the first book of 12 Rules for Life. And what that means is just that you would be surprised how interesting people can be when you are, if you sit with an open mind and an open heart, And I'm sure that's why being a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whatever has to be the most fascinating job ever. You really get, first of all, you have the knowledge and understanding of the human mind, and now you get to experience it and explore it firsthand. Like, wow, that's immensely, interesting. And I've always been interested in that. Some of the books I've read have been on human psychology, female psychology and the human mind and all those kinds of things. But anyways, I'm not quite sure where I was going with this, to be honest. So I would say that's probably where the idea of don't judge a book by its cover comes from, because all that you see is from the outside, right? You just see someone externally, and some people have this brilliant talent of being able to look at somebody and pay attention to the correct details in how they speak, in what they do, and in the space of 5 minutes they figured you out, but they've only figured you out on the surface. I think there's something weird about all of us, something interesting about all of us. Nobody is boring. And if you think you're boring, maybe you should just sit and think about what goes on in your mind, and really try and question it. Like, why would I think that, like, what I wonder sometimes, when you have a dream and it's an insane dream and it has nothing to do with your life. It has nothing to do with what happened in your life. Like, sure, there are dreams like that where it relates very much to whatever's happening in your day-to-day interactions, or a certain memory is extracted, or a combination of memories are extracted, and that's what you are. That's your dream experience or whatever. But some dreams, you wake up and you're like, what was that? Where did that come from? And it's just so amazing that there's a lot that we don't know about the human brain, and that's exciting for me. It's a challenge, and I've always been drawn to challenges. I've always been drawn to difficult things. I think this past week I've also thought a lot about it. Like, Xavier, why do you always choose the most difficult route? Why is that your go-to? And because it shouldn't be. It's unnatural. Everybody normally tends. And then we use that word normal again when we know there's no such thing. But just on average, people tend towards the easy way of doing things, the path of least resistance. That's what they call it. They go with the flow. And I guess for me, I've just never been that type of person. To me, that's boring. Why would I want to be like everybody else? I think it also stems from me trying to be, a hyper individual, if I can put it that way. Everybody's individuals, but I think everybody sort of, wants to just blend in. They want to be a part of the group. And I've always just stood outside the group and laughed at all those sheep in the group. And then, don't get me wrong, there's something beautiful about belonging to a group, but belong to the group with your own individuality. Don't become the group. You know what I mean? Like, don't join the collective. Like, I've been watching Star Trek recently, Star Trek The Next Generation, which is probably my number 2 series of all time. And, I think I've spoken about this before actually, but a lot of people think that it's nerdy, it's so... Star Trek nerds are into that stuff, but it's actually just it's a series. It's a comedy drama series that's set in a time and a place and a universe that is just that's its setting, right? And it's human interactions and alien interactions and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, let me not get sidetracked too much. I actually have a point. You probably sit there and wonder sometimes, does this guy even have a point? And I do. I have many points. Okay, you're just new to the game, to be honest. I think this is episode 11 also. Wow, I'm actually quite I won't say proud, because not proud, but I am excited. I'm intrigued by the fact that things have gone on this long, and I really don't see an end. I'm not getting tired of this. I'm actually, the more I do it, the more pumped I am to do it. So that's quite exciting. But anyways, on Star Trek: The Next Generation, there's a species of alien called the Borg, and the Borg is like it's a collective. It's like a hive mind, where everybody's minds, everybody that's part of the collective, is connected to one central computer, basically, or node or whatever. And whatever the collective agrees on, which is super easy for them because it's so many minds, and whatever their objective is, they will carry it out. But part of that is that you lose your individuality. Now they rescue somebody from the collective and they disconnect them from the collective, and then that person immediately has a crisis of identity because all they've known was the collective, and now all of a sudden they're forced to really figure out and evaluate their own position in life, their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own identity, and then that's a difficult thing. Identity is no small issue, and but that's what I think about. To make a long story short, when I see groups of people who all agree on the same things and have their own, there's no disagreement, you are part of the Borg, and you are basically a zombie. a sheep, zombie, robot. That's what you are. And I have no respect for you. You know, I respect the people who have their own opinions and refuse to allow the collective or the group think to wash that away. You cannot drown me out, you know. But I've also been someone that's always pushed against the current. I've always felt that I am an individual and the world needs to experience me as such. The idea of becoming a statistic is really, it bothers me. It bothers me more than it should, actually, you know. And that's also why I hate filling in forms, because now you fill in a form and then there's a box, you're like, oh, this is for statistical purposes. And you're like, I hate this so much because I don't like this. I'm more than a statistic, you know. But okay, it is what it is. But anyways, even like from the time I was born, I was pushing against the current, man. From the time I was born. So what happened was my mother, while pregnant with me, was not well. She was quite sick, and they had to induce an early birth, right? So then when I came out, it was maybe 4 or 5 weeks early, or less even. I'm not totally sure, to be honest. But there was a lot about me that was underdeveloped, especially my lungs. And then apparently when I was born, I was without oxygen for so long that the doctors were convinced that I would have brain damage, that I would be disabled, that I wouldn't function normally, and none of that would happen, and I just wouldn't have a normal life, and I would need to be taken care of, you know, my whole life and all that. And I'm sure that was devastating news for my parents, you know. But even them, maybe that's where I got it from, because even they were like, you're wrong, you know. And maybe that was partly denial to bad news, which happens. That's the normal human response, is to first be in denial about something devastating or something really, something that's not ideal, that's not good, something bad. You want to be in denial about that. But you know, growing up and just learning from my parents, you see now these two are two fighting spirits. They don't back down, and they are definitely not people who will join the collective, you know. And I always found that fascinating. But even so, the doctors have this expectation of me, and I completely destroyed their expectations of me, you know. Look at me now. I'm walking, I'm talking, you know. I might not be normal, definitely not normal, but who wants to be normal anyways? If you're normal, you're boring. And if you are normal and boring, it just means that you haven't actually found yourself. You're still part of the collective, you know, the collective unconscious. That's what you are. So why don't you wake up and identify yourself? Look in the mirror. Ask yourself, who am I? Who are you? What are you? You know, what do you want out of life? Man, what makes you happy? Not what makes other people happy, you know. You learn a lot when you speak to people, and I do speak to a lot of people. That actually that's decreased over time. I think instead of quantity of conversations, quality of conversations has really been my focus, you know. That's why I'm not sitting here with a crowd of people. I want to be able to speak to someone one-on-one or one-on-two, you know. Because that's really how you get to the bottom of somebody's personality, and I find that super interesting. What was I saying now? I was saying something else. Anyways, what's going on with me? Yesterday I got my driver's license. That's why I didn't do the episode yesterday. I was just too in a buzz. Got my driver's license, and I'm happy about it. Not excited. Funny enough, and I was excited to do the test because I knew I was going to crush it, you know. But, and by the way, that was my 4th driver's test. You know, I'm not good with tests, to be honest. Like, oh man, like once you use that word, and even now I get a bit of anxiety from it. But like, even writing a test, I get stuff wrong just because I'm too anxious about it, you know. And the last 3 times that I did my driver's test was an absolute disaster because I was a mess. I was freaking out, you know. But I think I was prepared so well by by the driving school that I was busy with, and this one teacher in particular was, really, he's a cool guy, and I've been put so at ease and put into this really going through the motions vibe, which is really great because that's what you want to be. That's true preparedness, is when you don't have to put any thought or any effort into something, but still doing it extremely well. And that's what true preparation is, and that's where confidence comes from. So if you are someone who maybe feels unconfident in something, or you don't feel like you have got this, just remember that confidence comes from preparation. And the better you are prepared, the more confident you'll be. And confidence is this beautiful thing that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If you're confident in something, it's probably going to go well. Even if things fall apart, it's still going to go well. And that's amazing. Like, if you find yourself, and I'm able to do this quite often, where, sometimes I live by the maxim, fake it till you make it, and that it's not fake it as in be, like lose your genuineness or lose your individuality or don't be yourself. What I mean is like fake your confidence. Fake your confidence, man. You'll be surprised what comes out of that, because that could easily turn into real confidence. It just, as soon as like think about this, for example, you go into a situation or an activity or an interaction with confidence, but nothing to back that confidence up, right? It's basically hubris. That's what hubris is, or arrogance. Arrogance is confidence without anything backing you up. But you start that way. Then from that, something good happens from that interaction or situation or problem that you were diving into. And as soon as something good happens, now you have something to back up your confidence, and that becomes a feedback loop, confidence. And that is the beauty of fake it till you make it. So if you need to do that, by all means, I give you permission, okay? You can use that advice. Just take it and use it, okay? Or don't. You're really a free spirit. Do whatever you want. But make sure that what you're doing is good for you. Don't do stuff that's bad for you. I've also been reflecting on that, really. It's like, how many things do I do? And this is something I try to do regularly, just as a self-check, in life, especially when you're a grown-up. It's not going to be often that people will call you out on your mistakes or call you out on things that you continuously do wrong, or things that like should really be questioned. Like, are you sure you want to keep doing this, man? Is this really good for you? Like you hardly ever get to the point where somebody intervenes, right? So I have this sort of self, process where I really sit down, and it's sometimes before bed, and it's not like being self-critical. It's rather just self-evaluation, right? And I ask myself, in this day, Xavier, what did you do that you could have gone on without doing? What did you do today? How many things did you do today that you knew is not helping you? It's not moving you forward. It might be moving you backwards. It's maybe not good for you. It's maybe helping nobody, including yourself. How many of those things did you do today? How many things did you do that's actually harming you or harming those around you, inadvertently or on purpose? Like, how many choices have you made that affects people around you negatively? And it really is it's like self-correction, and it has been working for me, to some extent. And obviously, I'm still going through life, so it needs to be that there's a constant self-correcting force within me, and that's what I try and do, and unfortunately it hurts sometimes to admit what you're doing wrong in life, because that's what truth is all about, isn't it? Truth is, I heard someone say, I can't remember who it was, but truth is the fire that burns the dead wood away. And most people are like 95% dead wood, and that dead wood is just all the lies, all the puffed upness, all the arrogance and all the resentment and all the frustration and anger and all the other nonsense that you're sitting with that you really don't need. And once truth comes along, it burns that like wildfire, and only after that can growth take place, So if you take this daily process of really just evaluating what needs to be burned away and what needs to be preserved, you end up growing, no matter how slow that growth might be. And I mean, that's my mission. It's one of the reasons why I started the show, is so that I can really think about things. I can really discuss things, because that's how I think, is by talking, And that's why I try not to prepare too much for these types of things, I just want to let my mind flow. I just want to let my stream of consciousness continue uninterrupted, And oh, that's funny. And it just gives me so much hope for the future, honestly, because it is so helpful for me. Listen to me talking British. It is so helpful. A bottle of water. Can I have a bottle of water, please? We're just dropping all the T's, Can I have a bottle of water? No. Can I have a bottle of water, please? And that's where English comes from. I wonder why we talk so funny, actually. Strange, innit? Alright. Strange, isn't it? Strange, innit? Okay. Anyways, I'm fascinated with British culture, especially modern British culture. Like I just love the way those people talk, man. It's so interesting. But I think it's also, if I want to explain it, and here's where we go again on another wild ride. Sorry, whatever topic was before, irrelevant. We're gonna talk about British people. And I think with the reason why British culture has become so interesting to me and so diverse, because apparently all the different parts of England that you go to, or the UK in general, which is also complicated. England is a thing, the UK is a different thing, the United Kingdom, and Great Britain is also another thing, Then there's other countries like Scotland and Ireland and Wales and the Isle of Man and all those little places there, the British Isles and what. Those are all different things, but they're part of either the United Kingdom or Great Britain, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's very complicated. I don't know. They'll know about it. But my point is, I think it's probably because of how diverse things have become in that country. Like, not only do you have these regional accents, the way that people speak in these little dialects of English, but you have people coming from other countries who have settled there, people from like Jamaica or Nigeria or where else do people come from? Even like from India or from one of the Arab countries and those types of things, and it integrates into the culture, because that's the way that culture is set up, is to be open about these sort of things, not to be too xenophobic or racist or just any far right wing ideas. But it's like that's allowed this culture to become so diverse and so interesting, and I just find it fascinating. I think that's probably why I like watching football. Actually, when you listen to the commentators speak, they all have different accents, so you can tell like, okay, this person is clearly from a different place, and what's even more fascinating is like British actors have this amazing talent, and if you're not into that level of movies or series or whatever, they can manufacture an accent from a different part of their country. Like, it's incredible, it's something like when you see a colored person acting on TV, and for those of you that are not local, a colored person in South Africa just means somebody who's, it's very complicated actually. Some colored people are descendants of the Cape Malay people, and that's just maybe they are straight up Cape Malay. Some people are, a combination of, or the offspring of African and white parents. That's also a colored person. Or if you're like me, where my grandparents don't share the same heritage, neither do my great-grandparents. On both sides, none of them share the same heritage. It's just a mix upon a mix upon a mix upon a mix, and that's where you get this guy. And that's colored too, and that's why I don't support the idea of putting everybody into one little group. It's short-sighted, and it feels almost, what's the word? It feels almost, meh. Sometimes my vocabulary fails me, and it's a word that's in there. I'm just, I don't know, have to shake it loose there somewhere. The word I'm looking for is basically when you do something just because, If you know the word, please let me know in the comments. If you know what I'm talking about, but you just sort of haphazardly, that's not the word, but you just, I almost had it like, it just drove by. I missed my taxi. That's what happened. Anyways, where was I going with this before that? Yes. So the way that British actors can emulate an accent from a different part of the country, which is so interesting. With colored people, I think there are different accents depending on where you're from, So for example, people in Bloemfontein, which is where I am, a lot of them come from Heidedal, and there's a certain accent there, a certain way of speaking, a certain dialect of Afrikaans, of English, and it's interesting, it's unique. Then you go to the Western Cape and, Mossel Bay and, the West Coast and Cape Town and those places, and there's a whole different accent, and even there's some diversity with the accents, and that's super interesting. And then you get you go to like the Eastern Cape, there's a different sort of accent there. You go to like Durban and the East Coast and all that, then there's a whole different accent with colored people, and it's so fascinating, man. The reason why I talk about colored people only is because the language is the same. Afrikaans, English, the language is there, but the accents are different, right? For example, and I don't use any other race in this regard. Maybe we can talk about, white people as well, Afrikaners and English, descendants from those places. But I find it interesting that, like with colored people, there's such diversity of accents, of language use, and now, so let's say, for example, you're an actor. You're a colored actor, and you're expected to sound like you're from a certain place just based on the location of the movie or the series or whatever. Then you have to emulate that accent, which is fascinating. So that's what British people do, but it's so nuanced in England. It's like, wow, they're really capable of a very interesting, form of acting. And I just find it fascinating. I think I've spoken about it before, like, actors are a fascinating breed. Actors are fascinating, race car drivers are fascinating, and those people are straight up animals, man. Real killers, because they can be nice on the outside, but when they get in that car, they're like, I'm gonna kill anybody in my way, Like, my main priority is to be the guy in front. and some people in public drive like that. But anyways, did my driver's test. That was a huge, how can I say, what do they call that? I'm at a loss for words today. Let's just put it that way. Anyways, so did my driver's test. Was excited before. Was a bit nervous, but not really. I felt comfortable, to be honest. So I did all the maneuvers, parallel parking and alley docking and turning in the road and the incline start and what else? Yeah, those are the things. That all felt normal. It was fine. I wasn't stressed or anything. And then the lady gets into the car. She's a very nice lady. We were actually chatting on the way. And I think for her, she could see clearly that, this guy, he's got it, man. So, or at least I hope so. But from the time that we left the yard test area to go and do the road test, it just seemed like we were just making a drive. It was nothing serious, nothing nerve-wracking about it, And then I realized also how silly I've been in the past. All I should have done was just drop it. Just don't think about it. Just do it, And that's kind of how I approach everything that I deem worthwhile to do, is don't think about it, just do it. you'd be surprised like how much your mind gets in the way of doing something, so yeah, I just did it. You go kind of on autopilot, obviously with some conscious decision making here and there. You need that. You can't be absent-minded, of course, but letting your thinking go in, or rather your overthinking go, I think that's probably the main thing, but yeah, we did it, and it seemed like part of what made me kind of stress a little bit was just that there was so much happening on the road that was like, if I don't do this thing correctly, I will fail this test. Like, for example, someone just walking into the street while I'm driving, like, geez. So it's like, if I bump this person by accident, or if I stop, what's gonna happen? That was so nerve-wracking. There was even a point where I was driving like in the CBD kind of, and I'm approaching a robot, and there are 3 lanes all going in the same direction, and 2 cars, like I'm in the middle lane, so the car on the left and the right lane are standing too close together, so it's like the car that I'm driving can barely fit through. And now I'm asking her, should I go through or should I stay behind? She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, I don't know either. And then I just decided to go on, just try and make a tight squeeze there. But it was nerve-wracking. And even there was a time where somebody had just swerved into the lane that I was driving, and fortunately I was making all the correct observations. Like, it didn't come as a surprise, but it was like obviously disturbing, So I was thinking the whole time, wow, why are so many things happening that could literally torpedo this test right now? And then I fail again. And then I can't even blame myself, it's better to blame oneself than to leave it in fate's hands. I think that's just maybe my personality coming through once again, not going against the current, just being that person that I want to be responsible for my decisions. I want to be the one to say, I did this, I made the mistake, I messed it up, I hate being at the mercy of external factors. I truly hate that. Like, that's something that can really spoil my day once you learn that there are things beyond your control and you are subject to those things, And I don't mean like life in general, like circumstances happen, there's a degree of luck or fortune that is involved there, but it's like when something happens like that and you're like, wow, there's genuinely nothing I can do about this, that disturbs me to no end. Oh my goodness, like I guess I find it difficult to accept things that I can't change, but that's why I think it was the previous book review, The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up, it helps you to understand that you can only control a certain set of things, and those are the only things you should be focused on, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think that brings us into a very natural way to our book report for this episode. So the book I want to talk about today, I've prepared a little thing here. The book I want to talk about today is A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, right? And Aldous Huxley is a very fascinating author, because this book will give you nightmares, to be honest, if you're truly awake enough to recognize what's going on in that book, It's a dystopian novel, right? It's a dystopian novel, but it's set in a utopian society. It's super interesting. There's a lot of different contrasts and parallels with 1984, first of all, but also modern society and the progression of technology, So I put down some 5 key takeaways from that book. So I just want to share that. I'm not going to give you a book review. It's not my job to sell you this book. I do think it's a brilliant read, and I think it's a real eye opener into where technology could take us as human society if we're not responsible. If we become irresponsible with technology, which I already think we are, it could lead to a dangerous place, and it could lead us to a society that we won't recognize. You know that. Anyways, let's get into it, and then I'll discuss it a little bit afterwards. Okay, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley is a fascinating dystopian novel with several key takeaways. Here we go. Number one, the dehumanization through technology. Huxley explores a world where advanced technology has led to the dehumanization of society. People are conditioned and controlled from birth with technology to use to maintain social order and stability. Okay, so that particular point is very interesting. Like, what happened was there's a scene in the book where one of the, like, there's factories, right? Baby factories. Like, human beings do not carry their children anymore. Children are no longer birthed. They are hatched in these pods, right? Sound familiar? Right now, they are working on their technology, and it is a thing, and it's working. They've grown a sheep in these little pods, you know, these little fetus pods that from fertilization into birth, I guess. That whole process can take place in this one pod. And that is terrifying. But anyway, so in the book, that's where human beings are born, right? They extract DNA from the best human beings. Okay, this person is really smart. This person is really smart. Okay, boom, we do that. But if we have a shortage of factory workers, for example, we need as many people in a factory as possible, but they need to be real short because we need as many people in the factory as possible. So let's introduce certain toxins like alcohol to stunt their growth and to stunt their brain development, because we don't need a guy who can read to operate factory machinery, you know? And that's literally what they do there. But obviously we haven't gotten there yet, but eventually it's gonna come. There will be a time, you know? For example, you could see that if you were a real psychopath, you could see that as a proper solution to the mismatch between people's skills and the required skills in society, you know? Because there is a big mismatch, and that's why the unemployment rates are so high, especially in South Africa. Because there's a lot of people who have skills that nobody needs. And that's unfortunate. That's real sad, you know? And all the skills that people actually need, they only need it from a select amount of people, very small amount of people. So now they're like, oh no, looks like AI technology is taking over or taking off. I should go study that. Then I'll definitely get a job. But people are already studying that. So now by the time you're done studying that, I can't find a job because, I thought it was a scarce skill. Yes, it's a scarce skill, but it's not an in-demand skill, you know? And that's such a scam. It's such a scam. If you go on government websites, they'll suggest to you what to study. But I guarantee you, when you go study one of those things, good luck, because everybody else also read that same article, right? That they read that same list and they're like, I choose construction, and that's what I did, by the way. And you think people are looking for construction people? When last did you see a job ad about construction? You know. But not my problem anymore. I'm doing what I love, which is music, and that's all I've ever wanted to do, you know. So, moral of the story, do what you want to do. But anyways, we're still in the book. My apologies, okay? So let's say, for example, you need more factory workers. There's 150 babies. We need about 100 of them to be factory workers. Fine. Let's inject them with alcohol that stunt their growth and their brain development, so that we can have, like, people that are this tall and really dumb. And you go and work in a factory. That's what we need you for. You know? And then it goes a step further even, because once that person is born, once that person reaches the age of being, you know, a baby that can crawl and walk and then hold things, right? I don't know what age that is. But once that happens, okay, now if you want to condition a baby to only want to work with tools, right? Now, this is where we're going with the factory worker thing. In that scene, the baby is crawling, and if the baby, then they put a book and a tool. I don't know what tool, a spanner or a screwdriver. They put a book and a tool in front of them, and if they go for the book, nothing bad will happen. Or rather, if they go for the tool, nothing bad will happen. If they go for the book, they get an electric shock. Imagine shocking a baby. That is insane. That is insane. But that's what the author has kind of foreseen. with how things might go in the future, right? And so imagine that, like they're literally using electroshock to condition a baby to not want to read. I feel like some of you have been electroshocked or conditioned with electroshock so that you don't want to read. Because a lot of people don't read and it's so sad. Oh my goodness. But anyways, and what this does is it creates a society in which everybody knows where their place in society is, where they belong. And you might think, oh, that's actually pretty convenient. And maybe it is, but because there's no crime in their society, there's also no freedom. There's no crime, there's no misbehavior, but there's also no freedom. And that is a scary thing, right? So let's say, for example, no, we need one of these babies need to be the next president. Okay, we'll condition them to do that. We'll give them the best genes and the best nutrients and everything, and that person will be super smart so that person can be in charge one day. So it's obviously a place with no freedom, and that's the dehumanization, because now we're treating human beings like animals, raising them like animals, because that's what you do with a dog. You not electroshock therapy, but you do conditioning to get the dog to behave in certain ways that you as the dog owner or the trainer expect from that dog. So quite scary stuff. But anyways, point number 2, consumerism and conditioning. The novel delves into the concept of consumerism and how individuals are conditioned to consume goods and services as a means of distraction and control. Sound familiar? This conditioning starts from childhood, shaping people's desires and behaviors. So even there, your choices, what you think is your choices, are actually conditioned in you, And I mean, that's what's happening with modern advertising now. It's a manipulation. It's a seduction. It's a lie. Maybe you don't want to go to Steers, but because all you've seen scrolling through Facebook is Steers ads, you're like, you know what, maybe I should go get me some Steers. You don't even know. You don't even realize what's going on, And they've won. They've won in brainwashing you. Anyways, let me not get too, but that's what it is. And look at the society we're sitting in today. That's why the book terrifies me, because just how close, it's hitting some of these things on the nose in our society right now. The fact that there's genetic manipulation right now. You could decide your baby's eye color, skin color, hair color. You could literally do that by introducing certain genes into the fetus. It's terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. But anyways, we go to consumerism and conditioning. So like with that, now if you look at kids that grow up nowadays with access to technology, people who are from the age of 7 until 14, let's say no, not 7 to 14, that's a weird age group. Let's say from 7 to 12, let's say 7 to 12, like that age group. They've grown up with technology in their hands, with access to the world, with exposure to advertising, right? And it's shaped their desires. I mean, I've noticed the trend lately with children who don't eat vegetables, bro. And not like, oh, vegetables are yucky. That's what we all went through. We still eat the vegetables regardless of whether they taste good or not. Personally, I absolutely hate vegetables, but I know that they're good for me. I cannot do without it. Well, some vegetables are good for me. Other vegetables are bad for the environment, if you know what I'm saying. Anyways, just a little flatulence joke there. And then, what was I saying now? Jeez, I really distract myself here. But yeah, so now look at what's happening now. They are using this technology. All these companies that want to sell you a bunch of stuff, they're using this technology, right? To first of all distract you from being your own individual, because now, everybody wants to eat McDonald's, Instead of being like, you know what, I should maybe eat food that's good for me, because then I will be a free thinker. I will be able to not be a slave to the corporations, because that's what you are, But that's conditioning us through the promotion of consumerism, through advertising. Buy this, buy that. And you know what? Most people, when they're unhappy, one of the reasons they're unhappy, I can't afford to buy this, I can't afford to buy that. I really want this, but I can't afford. So your joy is attached to what you're able to buy. then they've gotten to you. They've gotten to you already. By the way, this book was written in the 1800s. Can you believe it? This book was written in the 1800s. You know, this guy was really ahead of his time. But anyways, loss of individuality. And here's also where I was talking about it earlier, like belonging to the group, this level of groupthink that comes from the news and comes from the media that we consume. It's like, oh, this is going to happen. We think this. Like, we think? You really want to go there? We think? Anyways, loss of individuality. In this world, individuality is suppressed in favor of conformity. People are categorized into specific social classes and roles with little room for deviation or personal expression. This loss of individuality raises questions about the value of freedom and autonomy. And that's the beautiful thing about this author, right? And most good authors can do this. They do this so well, where they paint a picture that seems brilliant. But it's only good, for some reason it's only good because, like in this case, the loss of individuality. Because of the loss of individuality. Simply because your choices, your identity has been taken away. That's when things seem to be really good. Conformity means that nobody steps out of place. Conformity means that you won't have any problem people. Conformity means that you won't have any criminals. Conformity means that you won't have anybody that's deviating from what you want. So you, as the leader, have control over everybody. And that's not what you want. That's not what you want. You know. So if I look at all the sheeple that that wear their little blue t-shirts or their little yellow t-shirts or little green t-shirts or their little red t-shirts and red berets and all that nonsense, right? If I look at all these muppets, and they are muppets because they're being controlled, puppets actually, but muppets are puppets. Anyways, basically, if I look at all of these people, then I'm just thinking, first of all, wow, you're really part of the Borg collective, aren't you? But secondly, it's also like, so your individuality, you've sacrificed that to belong to this group that does not serve your interests even closely. They don't. They promise to, they claim to, but the only people, I mean, we've seen it from history, the only people that really or truly served in these political parties are the ones in charge of the political parties, and they are taking advantage of what you think is loyalty, when it's actually just that you're conforming to whatever ideology that they prescribe to you. And you just eat it up. You're like, we are free. No, you're not. You're not free. Because why can't you criticize? Why can't you have your own individual thoughts? Why can't you express a difference of opinion? You just have to conform. And that's sad. So, and look at what happens in society, right? We ostracize people who have a different way of thinking. We claim them to be a racist or a misogynist or just cast them out of society. That's what you do. Just because that person doesn't think the same way that the group does. And that's what I don't appreciate. And I foresee one day that I will become one of those people as well, where people will not be happy about what I'm saying, And I'm not a political figure either. I'm just speaking what's in my head, man. And I'm trying to be responsible about what I say. But I am always going to be loyal to the truth. I'm always going to be loyal to the truth, and I'm always going to be loyal to freedom and individuality, But I don't know why I'm going on about this. But anyways, so that's point 3 of this book, is that it really highlights the loss of individuality that comes with the type of control that is exercised when conformity is rewarded and individuality is punished. That's another form of conditioning that I think is totally evil. But anyways, here's number 4, critique of utopian societies. Brave New World serves as a critique of utopian societies and the dangers of sacrificing human values for the sake of stability and happiness. It challenges the notion of a perfect world achieved through technological and social control, right? And that's basically the control freak's fantasy, right? Is that if everyone can just do what I say and what I want, everything will be perfect. It's going to look perfect for sure. But I think that chaos and order, once you have that balance, That is what you call perfection. So most of the time, our lives are actually perfect because we have this balance of things going sideways sometimes, unexpected things taking place, and things that you can expect, things that are boring, things that are reliable, comfortable, normal. The combination of those two is what makes life so perfect. You know, it's not stagnation, but it's also not chaos and destruction. It's the combination of the two that keeps the world in balance, and that's what's beautiful, right? So, utopian society. That's why you should really be careful when political parties, especially, or when any form of government or any company leader wants to aim for things to run so perfectly that nothing can go wrong. That's bad, because first of all, that goes against the laws of physics. I think in thermodynamics, there's a law of thermodynamics, but I'm not sure, is that every ordered system tends towards disorder, right? So no matter how much you're going to try and keep things in order, it's going to result in things going towards disorder anyways. You cannot avoid it. You cannot avoid it, right? I don't know which law of thermodynamics that is. I didn't study physics anyways. And they didn't teach us thermodynamics in high school, which would have been cool actually. Because I already knew about thermodynamics, before I left high school. Like during high school, I was learning about that, but not in school. But anyways, I'm not familiar, but it's one of the laws of thermodynamics. Anyways, the final point here is the exploration of human nature. The novel raises profound questions about human nature, including the desire for freedom, the pursuit of happiness, and the consequences of prioritizing pleasure and comfort above all else. That's also a big thing. So even with tying back to the idea of consumerism and conditioning, right, is that most of the people in the society are getting everything they want. You eat what you want, you can take drugs, that's perfectly legal. In fact, the government gives you drugs. If you every part of the day, or like once your work is done, you're given psychosomatic drugs or hallucinogenics, and you just get to get together with all your friends. You guys all get to just be out of your minds, and that's represents the pharmaceutical industry, doesn't it? Oh, you have pain? Here's a drug that's gonna make you feel like you're flying. Why not just get rid of my pain? Why do we live in modern society where I have to be intoxicated to not feel pain? Why haven't we mastered the ability to remove pain without reducing my functionality? It's because that's not profitable. Simply because it's not profitable. I'd rather give someone who's in a tremendous amount of pain, I'd rather make them dependent on this powerful drug that I make. And once their pain is gone, they will not be able to stop taking my drugs. It's the perfect profit model, but it also makes you a monster, so it just shows you, or the author is trying to show you what would happen if you only pursued pleasure, if you only pursued comfort, if you only pursued what was easy and convenient and good, so then it really begs the question, like, what should I be pursuing? Should I be pursuing happiness? Shouldn't I be pursuing comfort? Shouldn't I be pursuing pleasure? Shouldn't I do that? And the answer to that, if you read this book, is no. It ends in a total disaster. It ends with your loss of individuality. And that's literally where the final scene... oh, pardon me. The final scene of the book is a horrifying scene. Truly, and that's what will give you nightmares. You won't be able to sleep. You read that and you'll be like... And then, but it is so impactful that you tell yourself, I will never conform to the group. And even after the group, because what will happen is the resistance that you push against the group will make the group more powerful in its desire to bring you into the collective once again. So the pull becomes more stronger and stronger the more you push back. And to be a truly free spirit is to be able to break away completely from that. And that means that you have to swear off the pursuit of pleasure, the pursuit of comfort, satisfying every need and desire. Like, what are you doing satisfying all your desires? Do you really want to be that person? There's a lot of people in hospital because they only satisfied their desires. There's a lot of people whose lives are falling apart simply because they satisfied their desires. You know, I'm talking about people who are addicted. People who are addicted to food. People who are addicted to drugs or to alcohol. People who are addicted to gambling. They're just satisfying the immediate desires that they have, and then now they can't stop. Do you want to be that person? Because that's what you be if you pursue pleasure. So then, you know, it just begs the question, and what is freedom really? And what I believe is that freedom is discipline. Freedom is putting yourself in a cage sometimes when it's important to do so. Because what we imagine, and it sounds so counterintuitive, right? How can it be freedom if I have to force myself to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning? How can it be freedom if I have to make sure that I exercise every day? How can it be freedom if I can't drink any drink I want? Why must I drink water? How can that be freedom? Well, it's freedom because if you have a disciplined schedule and you keep yourself to that schedule, you have a lot more free time on your hands. Notice that when you are stressed out, this is just an example. Notice that when you are stressed out and anxious and things are not going well in your life, or you feel like, you know, it's too overwhelming, it's too much, notice how little planning has been done. Notice that you've decided to do what you first want to do instead of what you have to do. And now that your pleasure's done, your desire's over, all that's left is now the things that you have to do, nothing to look forward to anymore. That's what puts you in stress mode, in crisis mode. So that's just an example of what might happen when you, or rather that's just an example of why discipline equals freedom. And why our idea of freedom, where there's no boundaries, we can do whatever we want, we can go wherever we want, we can say whatever we want, how that is the most harmful thing for you. And how that can really not be freedom at all. There's a lot of people in jail who did whatever they want. There's a lot of people in hospital who did whatever they want. There's a lot of people whose lives have totally fallen apart because they believed in that freedom idea too much. So it's this hedonistic philosophy that really is the most harmful thing, and that's what this book is also showing. It's like, you know, don't be too strict with yourself, of course, but have a balance between that which you need to do, that's good for you, that's good for your life, that's good for those around you, and that which you have to do, which just, you know, takes the edge off or provides a little bit of comfort or is pleasurable, you know, like watching a funny movie. You can't watch funny movies all day, you know, Xavier, you can't do that, you know, as much as I want to watch stand-up comedy day and night, I cannot do that. It would be irresponsible. I need to take care of things in my own life. I need to see to the progression of my existence, you know. I need to see to the pursuit of my goals that would allow me to have a level of freedom that can promote freedom for others. But it requires discipline, it requires hard work, it requires dedication, it requires consistency. And you can do none of that if you are only in pursuit of pleasure. Overall, Brave New World offers a thought-provoking commentary on the potential pitfalls of technological advancement, social engineering, and the erosion of fundamental human qualities. And we are losing that, right? You know, I think it used to always be a thing. As long as there have been humans on this planet, old people have always thought that young people are very disrespectful. They lack the basic social skills to just greet an older person with respect. You know, nowadays the society has gotten to the point where kids are so afraid of human interaction. You know, it's easier. It's like, I've spoken to guys, friends of mine really, who find it easier to get a girl's number from a friend, to have a conversation with this person over text, than it would be to actually speak to the person. What? That's how have we fallen so far? How have we fallen so far? It's ridiculous. So now, that's where you communicate. That's where you express yourself through words and emojis. And then you avoid the opportunities for genuine human interaction. I find it uncomfortable. I cannot bring myself to have a conversation with somebody who I've only ever spoken to via text. And that's just socially. That's why I don't even respond to people's messages who try to have conversations. Like, dude, if we've never met, we are not going to have a conversation. Absolutely not. Unless we are trying to organize a, like having a guest on the show, for example, or a job opportunity, or, something like we cannot establish a friendship or a relationship or anything, a rapport. We cannot establish a rapport if we haven't physically interacted, man. And sometimes that goes well, to initially, DM each other and all that, but then it has to go quickly towards physical interaction, speaking to one another. But it's easier for so many to do that than to actually have a normal conversation in person. My goodness. Yeah, I really fear for society, but those are the types of fundamental qualities, fundamental human qualities that the book is highlighting that we are losing. And this book was written before any of us were born. As old as you are, ma'am or sir, you might be 100 years old. This book was written before that. So think about that. It's exceptional. Right? Just the forethought of this author. But anyways, how do I end this off? How do I round this story off, or this episode off? Well, I guess I can just try and summarize, which really doesn't do justice. But I'll just summarize the episode, Let's see. We avoid groupthink. We promote individuality. We enjoy the little things, I think. We pursue goals. And we focus on what we can do and not on what we can't do. And I think that's part of the secret to good life. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!